Hello everyone, this is Lokesh Malik in front of you. And now I have started my new channel and I have taken the chapter I have taken the chapter 6 electrolysis from the subject electrolysis, and I will be covering the syllabus of class 10th ICSC. I will be covering the chapters of physics, chemistry and different subjects as my per day. So, now before I start, I want to concentrate on this word that is being electrolysis. In this word electrolysis is made up of two words, that is electro meaning the flow of electrons or electricity, and lysis means separating. That is the electrolysis refers to the process of the decomposition. Electrolysis refers to the process of decomposition of a substance by the passage of the electric current in the case of the polar covalent compounds and the electrovalent compounds, that is in the aqueous or the molten state. Now the first specific case is to be used there, that the two types can two by the two types electrolysis can be brought, that is the fused state, that is the molten state, by heating that substance to a particular temperature that at which it melts. For example, the lead bromide gets malted or gets changed into the liquid state at 380 degrees Celsius. So now electrolysis establishes a relationship between electrical energy and chemical energy. It is being noticed that many substances allow electricity to pass through them and many do not, and it has been also found that substances that allows the passage through them, like the metals, like the alloys, like iron, like brass, like copper, doesn't undergo any chemical change. Rather, they allow the flow of electrons and the flow of protons, that and the flow of the electrons through there. So the metallic elements, I have told you that the iron and alloys that conduct electricity to them, and no chemical change is being followed in them. So, but one exception is there, that in the metals, in the non-metals, that is except graphite, that is mean graphite conducts electricity in the solid state. That is, the graphite allows the electricity to run through them, allows the electrons to pass through them from negative terminal to the positive terminal. That is, so this by this we can conclude that in the non-metals except graphite, all others do not conduct electricity, like sulfur, phosphorus, and oxygen. Therefore, metals and alloys are called conductors, and non-metals are called non-conductors or insulators of electricity. The conduction of current by the conductor is due to the flow of electrons and insulators. And now this is the particular topic of the physics. In physics, we know that the resistance is also offered due to the immobile positive charges. That is, the electrons allows the electrons gets the obstructions from the immobile electrons, and the insulators doesn't possess mobile electrons. They have also the immobile electrons also, but in the case of the conductors, they have mobile electrons also. Chemical compounds behave differently when an electric current is passed through them. Some compounds conduct electricity in aqueous solution or in molten state, but not in solid state, or are composed by the passage of electric current. And now that it is these lines are stating that the chemical compounds behave differently. That I have discussed in the solid states, that there are some compounds that conduct electricity in the solid states and some doesn't. But now there are other characteristics that the some compounds conducts electricity in the aqueous or in molten state also, and that chemical compounds which conduct electric current in molten or aqueous solution state are known as electrolytes. What they are known as? Electrolytes. Some compounds, and there are also some compounds that do not conduct electricity, whether they are in their aqueous solution or molten solution, or whether they are in the solid state, and these are called non-electrolytes, that is sugar solution, kerosene, glucose, etc. Now let us proceed on the another page. And now the very most important topic, the in the ICC exams, that is the differentiation between the metallic conductors and the electrolytic conductors. The metallic conductors, in the metallic conductors, there is a flow of the current that consists of a single stream. That is, the only the electrons flow from their higher concentration, that is the negative poles, towards the positive pole, that is towards the low concentrations of the electrons. And also, there are some property, and I have also told that only the metallic conductors have these properties, only the metals and alloys have these properties. And also with metals, whether they are in the solid state or whether they are in the liquid state, they are the good conductors of electricity as comparable to the electrolytic conductors. Electrolytic conductors are only the good conductors of electricity that is in their aqueous or molten state, and they are the properties of only the electrovalent compounds. That is the most major point. That is, these are the properties of the electrovalent compounds only: electrolytic conductivity, electrovalent compounds, and polar covalent compounds. And they flow, and their stream also consists of the two streams, that is, one of the positive cations flowing towards the negative cathode, the positive cations flowing towards the negative cathode, and another of the negative ions flowing towards the positive cathode. This particular topic I am going to take at the end of the pages, so wait till the end and watch the full video. Now next point, fourth point, that is no change in the form of the composition occurs. As I have told earlier, that the metallic conductors allows the electric current to pass through them without any chemical change, without any chemical change. So that's why it is only a physical process, whether they are in the solid state or in the liquid state. And on the other side, that is the electrolytic conductors, the new products are formed at the electrodes, and this involves the chemical change, because there are two streams, that is, one of the positive cations flowing towards the negative cathode and the negative anions flowing towards the positive cathode. So there are two ionic changes, and that's why as the ionic splits, they react with the another ions, and the new products are formed at the electrodes. That is, it involves the chemical changes. Now, the current carrying particles, as there is only the one stream, that is, they carry only electrons. So that's why the current carrying particles are very extremely small, because the size of electrons is very negligible. And on the other hand, the electrolytic conductors, the current carrying particles are ions, which are bulky bodies as compared to the electrons. In respect to the electrons, ions are bulky bodies that is formed by the sharing by the sharing of the group of atoms. You can understand that atoms contain electrons, but in the metallic conductors, the changing of electrons taking place, but in this electrolytic conductors, the changing of the group of atoms and atoms takes place. So by this you can understand this. Now next is the definitions and the examples, and this is in the syllabus at the topmost priority. These type of questions with definitions and examples is being asked thoroughly in the previous papers of the board. So now the definitions is electrolysis and electrolytes. The electrolysis is a process of the decomposition of a chemical compound in aqueous solution or molten state that is being accompanied by using the direct electric current. Then the electrolytes are the compounds that is being discussed, that they can conduct electricity only their aqueous solution. So there are certain keywords that we have to remind, and that keyword should be mentioned in the examination. And that keywords in the first definition, that is the electrolysis, are these are the process of decomposition, and these are of a chemical compound, and they are also whether they are in molten state or in aqueous solution. And the another keyword is here, that is the electric current. The electric current should be passed to them. Without electric current, no electricity will pass through the electrolysis. And the electrolytes are compound with their aqueous solution or molten state, which allow electric current to pass through them. These are the certain compounds that allows the electric current to pass through them when they are only in their aqueous solution or the molten state. That is, the electricity cannot pass through them when they are in solid state. Electrolytes are molten salts or solutions of salts in water, or solutions of acids and alkalis. The electrolytes are molten salts or solutions of salts. That is, the alkali electrolytes are the molten salts. That is the by melting the salts. That is the fused state, or the solutions of salts in water. That is the the aqueous solutions or the solutions of acid and alkali, that is again the aqueous solutions. So now there are certain examples of electrolyte, that is the H2SO4, HNO3, H3PO4, HCl, and NaOH, KOH, NH4OH, CaOH2, NaCl, CaSO4, BBBr2. And now we are going to discuss the types of electrolytes that on the basis of their ability to dissociate, on the basis of their ability to dissociate, whether they gets partially dissociated or whether they get fully dissociated into ions. Okay, so based upon the type, there are two electrolytes, that is the strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. And here we have got the differentiation of strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. The strong electrolytes, which allows a large amount of electricity to conduct through them. If the large electricity will pass through them, so the large ions so the large amount of ions will get dissociated into the free mobile ions, because in the electrovalent compounds, there are opposite charges, one of the metal and the one of the non-metals, metallic ion and the non-metallic ion. So that's why there are opposite charges, and they are binded together by the electrostatic forces of attractions. They are bounded together by the electrostatic forces of attractions. So the electricity is required to break through them, and front of all, and the topmost priority is that they should be in the aqueous solution, such that the bonds of that electrostatic forces of attractions will be diminished when they are in their fused state or their aqueous solution. This again I will be covering in the next topics followed. So the which allows a large amount of electricity to flow through them, and on the other hand, weak electrolytes, due to the presence of the immobile electrons allows a small amount of electricity to flow through them. And as they allow the large amount of electricity to flow through them, so the one point can also be they are the good conductors of electricity. They are good conductors of electricity, and these are poor conductors of electricity because they do not allow a large amount of current to flow through them. And here third point is most important: these are almost completely dissociated in fused or aqueous solution state. That is, they get completely dissociated. They gets completely, that is and almost is fused in their aqueous solution state. On the other hand, the weak electrolytes doesn't get dissociated in fused or aqueous solution state fully. They get partially dissociated, and these solutions contain, and due to the as the all the ions, almost whole molecule or whole compound is get dissociated in the aqueous solution state, so they contain only free mobile ions, that is the one positive ion and one negative ion each per volume. And here they contains ions as well as molecules due to the partial dissociation. There are some molecules left over that is being unionized. But make a note that the weak electrolytes, if we are using a weak electrolytes, then the percentage or the proportions of the unionized molecules and the ionized ions will be the same. That is, they will be in the direct proportion. They will remain the same. And the last point says, the fifth point says that strong electrolytes allows a bulb to grow brightly. If we connect a bulb to one of the terminals, then the bulb will grow brightly in the case of the strong electrolytes, because due to the presence of ions, so the more electricity will flow to them. But on the other hand, the weak electrolytes will allow to bulb to glow dimly. That is, they do not allow the bulbs to glow very brighter. Now there is the correct differentiations of acids. They are the strong electrolytes and they are weak electrolytes. These are strong, these are weak, and these are strong and weak, and based upon that they are in molten state or in aqueous state. So these we have also this is the topic of the previous chapter, and I will also be covering of the previous chapter, so stay tuned in my channel. Now next is the non-electrolyte. This I have already discussed and already explained to you that it is a compound, that is it is in the molten state, that it doesn't conduct electricity whether it is in molten state or it is in fused state. Okay, it doesn't conduct electricity in the solid state also. It also doesn't decomposes at electrodes. And it also doesn't splits at electrodes, like in the case of the electrovalent compounds. These electrolytes do not have ions. and these electrolytes do not have ions and a mixture of molecules. These electrolytes only have molecules. They contain only molecules. For example, distilled water, alcohol, kerosene, cane sugar, benzene, glucose, and urea. And now, the most important topic is here: acid, bases, and salts as electrolytes. Now, we have to take a note which electrolytes are weak electrolytes, which electrolytes are strong electrolytes, and based upon that, we can only use them as molten or infused, molten state or in the aqueous solution. So there is the one particular note is that acid and ionizes ionizes when dissolved in water. They dissolves in water. When they dissolves in water, so that is they are in aqueous solution. Whereas the salts dissociates. Whereas the bases and salts dissociates in the fused or the molten state, and sometimes they are in the aqueous solutions also. So they can be classified and as we have discussed as strong or weak electrolytes depending upon the degree of dissociation. So what is the degree of dissociation? Degree of dissociation is equal to number of molecules produced and the total number of molecules that is being present in that compound. The total number of molecules that is being present in the compound, but the number of molecules dissociated into 100, so that we can find the percentage. Now, all salts are strong electrolytes. That is, they form the strong acidic or basic or neutral solutions after the complete dissociation. Some salts, which are generally more volatile than the other salts, and the salts that do not dissociate completely, can be considered as weak electrolytes. And here, the some salts that are some there are some exceptions that are generally more volatile than the other salts, and the salts which do not dissociate completely can be considered as weak electrolytes. These are weak electrolytes because they do not dissociate completely, and these are known as weak electrolytes, which is can be compared, and there are strong electrolytes such as mercury chloride and HgCl2, and the weak electrolytes are on the next page, that is the CH3COO2Pb, that is lead acetate, and the ammonium carbonate NH4 2CO3, that is they do not dissociates completely into their aqueous or molten state. So here are the dissociated ions. Take a look at this ions, and these are very common ions and it's been covered in the first chapter. So let's proceed. Now the confusion arises. Now, electrolytic cell voltameter. Now, take a look, students, that voltmeter is different and voltameter is different. Voltmeter is used to find the potential difference in an electric circuit, whereas voltameter is the electrolytic cell. That is, it is a non-conducting vessel. That is, it is a non-conducting vessel. And now the question arises, why it is a non-conducting vessel? So that while it is in use, while we are using it to find any practical cause, the if we touch, then we will get a shock. So as that to prevent that shock, these conducting vessels, these electrolytic cells are non-conducting. So, electrolytic cell can be defined. They contain the two electrodes that is immersed in the solution of electrolyte. We will be given the electrolyte used to bring about a chemical reaction. That is used to bring about a chemical reaction, the chemical change, or rather, we should say chemical change. And now, the electrolytic cell only requires the DC source, not the AC source, because if we will apply the AC source, then the cathode and the anode will change alternatively, thus defeating the purpose of our experiment. The way the anode change takes place, it converts the electrical and it converts the electrical energy. That is, we will provide electrical energy and it will changes into the chemical energy, and we got the two different substances produced at the two different electrodes. So now there is the electrochemical series, electrochemical cell. Now in the electrochemical cell, it is a device that is used to convert the chemical energy into electrical energy. Examples: the simple voltaic cell and Daniel cell, etc. That is, it is a device that is used to convert the chemical energy. Now chemical energy into electrical energy. That is the electrochemical cell, and the electrolytic cell are different. Take a note that these are different. Now, electrodes. Now, if we want to define electrodes, these electrodes are generally made up of graphite, or these are made up of generally gas carbon. The two metal plates or wires or graphite rods or gas carbon rods that are immersed in the electrolyte through which the current enters and leaves the electrolyte cell, because these are the only mediums through which the current enters, and this is the only medium through which the current leaves from the electrolytic cell. So that's why it can be defined as follows. So now next, the if we want to define the anode is an electrode that is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is called the anode, and the cathode, that is electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery, is called cathode. That is, it is connected to the negative terminal, as you can see here that it is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, and anode, it is the positive terminal and it is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. And when the current is turned on, and now the most important basic thing that we have to focus on is this note. Now here, when the current is turned on, the electrons flow from anode to cathode. That is, anode contains more electrons than the cathode originally before making this setup. Anode contains more electrons than cathode, but when it is connected in the circuit, that is, it is connected with the copper wires, when it is connected connected by a battery, the electrons moves from anode. Because when the two terminals are connected in the battery in a closed circuit, then the electrons always move from their higher concentration to the lower concentration, that is the higher potential to lower potential, and higher potential is the positive electrode and the lower potential is the negative electrode. So the electrons flow from this anode through this wire and then they will come to the cathode. So that's why making the cathode a negatively charged electrode, and due to the movement of the electrons from anode to cathode, it makes it there is the absence of electrons in this anode, so it makes it a positive electrode. So now now we can make our own things, that how to remember and not. Some make like other things, some people can make other things, but in the book that is being mentioned here, it is anode, that is add, plus means positive. So the now the another concept is the anions and the cations. As we know that a compound that a molecule is made up of, that a compound is made up of an anion and a cation. That is, there is the electrovalent compound that is being made is made of anion and cation. That is, there are opposite charges and they are bonded with the electrostatic forces of attraction. So now when they are in their aqueous or the molten solution, so now the cation and the anion splits. So now anion is a negative entity and cation is a positive entity. So cation will move towards, so this cation will move towards the positive entity, will move towards the cathode, that is the negative terminal, electrode, and the anode, that is anion, that is negative, it will move towards the positive cathode, a positive electrode. So that's why now we can make the differentiation between anode and cathode and anion and cation. So now the difference between the anode and cathode. Anode, it is the electrode connected to the positive terminal of the battery. The anode refers to the electrode that is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. That is, as we have discussed here, that is the anode, how we have came to be positive positive battery, how why it is connected to the positive terminal of the battery, and why cathode is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, we have discussed earlier. Now and now also we have discussed that ions, how why ions migrate to cathode and cations migrate to cathode. So these 2 points are the observations of these 2 points that is being told earlier. Now, the third point is the new one. It is an oxidizing electron, that is, oxidation takes place at anode. Oxidation takes place at anode. Now, take a look. What is oxidation? Let us revise of class 9 syllabus. What is oxidation? Oxidation refers to the removal of electrons from an atom. That is the that is anions. Anions have an excessive electron, that it is a one more electron, that it is an excessive of electrons, 1 2 or 3 electrons that is being gained by the electron, gained by the atom. So that is why they form the anions. So when these anions move towards the anode, they lose their electrons to the anode. Suppose so they lose their electrons to anode. Suppose the chlorine ion. Fluorine ion is an anion. So when it moves towards the anode, so it gets attracted to the anode. Why? Because anions is a negative entity and anode is a positive electrode. So they gets attracted towards that. So when the chlorine ion gets here to anode, so it reduces it oxidizes by removing its one electron to anode. Okay, so that's why oxidation takes place at anode, and it is an oxidizing agent or oxidizing electrode. It is an electrode, so that is why it is an oxidizing electrode. And now, what is oxidizing electrode? Oxidizing electrode or oxidizing agent. That is that removes that removes the electron from the another substance. Okay, that removes the electron from the another substance, or adds the oxygen to the another substance, or remove the hydrogen from the another substance. Okay, so that's why it is an oxidizing electrode, and oxidation takes place at anode. Okay, as comparable to the cathode, it is an reducing electrode. Reduction takes place at cathode, and that is when the positive cations are present. So these cations gets highly attracted towards the negatively charged electrode, that is the cathode, and when they gets attracted, they gain the electron from the cathode, and they gain the electron because they have one electron less, and that is why they have formed the ions, because they have electrons less than the neutral atom. 1 2 3 electrons less than the neutral atom, so they gain the electron from this place, and that is why these are termed as reduction, because reduction is defined as the exception of electrons, accepting electrons. Okay, reduction is the process by which an atom accept electrons. So when the cation comes to the cathode, it accepts the electron, and this electron, and the another point is that if you will be asking a question that how this cathode is giving the one electron to the present ion. So the answer to this is, the as we know that one ion is being left out by the chlorine ion from here. So this electron will move through the circuit and will come into the cathode, and when the cation will come here, so the cation, suppose Na plus ion have come here, so it will accept that electron and will become a neutral atom and gets deposited at cathode. Okay, so that's the basic major point, that is the anion comes here and gets take a short and a quick revision. That is the anion come here to gets attracted, anion being a negative entity gets attracted towards the positive electrode, and then oxidation occurs. That is, it loses one electron to anode, or loses one, two, or three electron to the anode, and that electrons, whether it is one or two or three, depending upon the metals or depending upon the non-metals, moves towards the cathode, and that one, two, or three electrons gets reduced, or being added up to the cation, added to the cation. So now the next topic is ions. Ions, as I have discussed earlier, ions refers to the atoms or the group of atoms that carry a positive or a negative charge are known as ions, and these are closely associated with the valency, because the atoms because these ions are formed when they lose electrons to the another atom, or they gain electron from the another atom by making, and such that they make an electrovalent compound. And based upon the ions, the anions are categorized based upon their charges. The ions are categorized into the cations and anions, as I have discussed earlier. And the charge on the ions, or positive or negative charges, they are is equal to the valency of the atom of an ion. Suppose the Na neutral atom loses one electron to the chlorine atom, so the Na plus ion becomes the cation, and it has a positive charge, and its valency will be 1. That is, one electron is being lost, that is it has a one positive charge, so that's why its valency of an atom is also 1. So now we have got a differentiation between the cations and anions. The differentiation between the cations and anions is being discussed as follows. These cations are positively charged ions. These cations are positively charged ions because they loses their electrons to anions. Anions accepts the electrons from cations. That is, they are negatively charged ions. When they accept the electrons, the one electron is the outermost orbits gets fulfilled, and they acquire a negative charge, and the cations, being positively charged ions, moves towards the negatively charged cathode, and on whereas the anions, being the anions being the negatively charged ions, moves towards the positive anode. So the third point, gain electrons from the cathode and gets reduced to become a neutral atom. The cations gain electrons from the cathode and gets reduced to become a neutral atom. As I have discussed earlier, that the reduction takes place when it goes to when it goes to cathode. So it gains the electrons from the cathode. It gains electron from cathode. That is, reduction is taking place, and this electron is being supplied by the anion. When it gets oxidized to the anion, that is, it loses electrons when it goes to anode. When it loses electron, and that electron is being gained by the cations. So now I will pause my video here, and now I will continue the next topics further later. So don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, and I would be giving you these videos at a quicker pace, and I will try my best. And I will by this I will also revise my syllabus, and I will be giving you the before 5 chapters also in the next video. So stay tuned, stay home, stay home and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.